Foad Izadi. He's a professor of political communication at Tehran University for more analysis. Well, Fuad, so what many politicians and activists have called for a boycott there, but what's been the impact so far?
I don't think you would see any serious impact. This type of calls for boycott have been around for the last 41 years since the 1979 revolution. And the people who participate in elections generally don't pay attention to these calls. The average voter participation in Iran parliament elections is about 60%. So obviously there are a portion of the population that doesn't vote, the 40% that doesn't come. At least a part of that 40% are people who are not going to the polls because they oppose the government or for other reasons. But the 60% that show up normally don't listen to the calls of boycott, because every year there are these calls of boycott, and they're used to it basically, and not paying too much attention to it.
And what are the main issues here for the Iranians this time round?
You know, like any other country, the domestic policy, economic policy, and foreign policy are going to be important for people. Rouhani's foreign policy is not really working out. His hope that the U.S. government would not leave the nuclear agreement did not materialize. He put a lot of his eggs in that nuclear agreement basket, and the U.S. left the agreement. Europeans are not interested in fighting the United States on that front. So his foreign policy is not really doing what Rouhani promised for it to do. So Rouhani supporters are under a lot of pressure. There are MPs that supported his foreign policy initiatives. They have to answer to the people of why they have done that. And economic policy and domestic policy is also not something that a lot of people accept. So Rouhani is not a very popular man, and that's going to have an effect on public opinion, and that's going to have an effect on how people vote today.
And Fuad, what is your expectation, especially since Iran has been isolated from the global stage? Showing up at the polls and voting, at least for a portion of Iranians, is an answer to Trump and the policy of maximum pressure campaign. So there are some people who are going to the polls to say no to this type of intervention in Iran dating back to 1953 coup. So that portion of the population will show up. We expect a lower percentage of turnout this year, less than the average, which has been 60%, because people who voted for Rouhani are not happy with him, and they don't want to vote for the other side, so they may just stay home. We'll find out about the voter participation in a few hours, I think, after the polls close. But overall, I think the fact that half or more than half of Iranian population is going to the polls shows that the U.S. policy against Iran is not really working out. The policy's aim was to have people come to the streets, not go to the polls and overthrow the government. That hasn't happened, and I don't think it will happen anytime soon. Well, that's all the time we have, but thank you very much for that insight, Foad Izadi.